So in your years of service in the inner city and doing ministry work, you've discovered that black people have a very different definition of success than white people, which I would not have thought had been the case. But tell me why you believe that and what the differences are.
Well, I've had the privilege and experience to travel to inner city communities throughout the nation. And I just noticed that money, just the focus on money, has a much higher relevance to the black community as far as what's defined as success. But I noticed with the white community that education is the big word that I hear all the time. And so now I don't know fully why that is, but I know it's a challenge because with the focus on money, the kids try to get money quickly and illicit means like drug dealing and stuff like that. And so that's just what I've noticed over the years, Jason.
So that's interesting to me because I've done this is the 234th episode of this show, and I ask every single guest the definition of success. And I try. What I've discovered is that there are 6 categories that usually falls in. Money is one of them. Mm-hmm. Money, mental, impact, relationships, etc. And all these different ones. Money is by far, well, not by far, but is the number one that shows up most of the time, but not in the way that you might think. It's not about, hey, $1 billion is success. It's about having enough money to have freedom to do what you want when you want with them you want. So. And that would be the same from my black guest, white guest, or any other. But I would have never thought that. That is very interesting to me. That is very, very interesting to me. I think your perspective, though, is interesting because you spent most of your adult life working in the inner city, right, working with mostly black families, black kids, et cetera. And you were talking pre-show about most of the help is coming from the white community to do that. So you're getting to see 2 different sides of this.
Exactly.
Now we've got here on the table, we've got 2 books that you wrote. One is A Walk of Love. This is your autobiography. And there actually was a movie made about you called Unconditional.
Right.
And everybody needs to go watch this movie. Michael
Ealy.
Michael Ealy.
A light-skinned, blue-eyed guy that looks exactly not like me.
But he was in a lot of Tyler Perry movies too, wasn't he? That
guy? Yeah, he's in a lot of movies.
Yeah, he's in a lot of movies.
Successful actor. Yeah.
So he played you in
exactly.
your story of your triumph and prison and all the stuff, which I want to talk about today. And then you got this other one, Love or War, Choose Love, and this is a little bit more about what you've been doing now with all your other ministries and stuff. So
exactly.
Let's go back and talk about Papa Joe before he was Papa Joe. Okay. So you were growing up. You grew up here in the local area, right?
I was born in Nashville, Jason, but I grew up in a small town called Waverly, Tennessee.
Oh yeah,
which is
west.
not far from.
Just west, out on the Tennessee River, right?
I grew up a country boy.
Country boy, and you were a pretty smart kid. You ended up getting into computers and doing computer stuff as a young adult, right?
Yeah, I was just say graced to be one of the let's just say top-ranking students academically at my high school, and I had a full engineering scholarship and a minor in computer science. Mm-hmm.
Wow! So I didn't know that you had a full scholarship. Where'd you go to school?
I went to school at UT in Knoxville. It was actually a cooperative program that I had at Eastman Kodak. But yeah, and so I was an honor student all through college, and I tutored 3 programming languages. So I basically was a nerd, Jason undercover.
Papa Joe, the nerd, undercover nerd. So you were doing that. Was that your goal in life? Were you going to stay in computer programming? Was that the original goal?
Well, I wanted to be an engineer and just use computer program as a tool.
Right.
And so that's what I was going to be, because I had a job waiting on me at IBM before I made a big mistake.
Yeah. So you did make a big mistake, and this is talked about. You share this in the movie with the fictional character in the movie, Sam, who kind of helps weave the story through the whole thing, which was interesting because I didn't know she was fictional. And I had met you before I watched the movie, and I was like, he didn't talk about this girl at all the whole time we met. But I learned
it's a yo on the fictional.
Yeah.
The young Sam is exactly how you saw her.
Yeah.
The older Sam is what we call a composite.
Right.
It's a storyline of several adults put into one.
And then you tell her what you did. So tell me the mistake that you made that landed you in prison over $200. This is insane, but
Okay. Well, Jason, I've been young a long time. Okay. So this was back in the '80s, and so in the early '80s, like I said, I was an honor student in engineering and computer science, and so by day I was an all-American kid, and I did have a job waiting on me at IBM, high-paying job, and I tutored 3 programming languages, like I said, but I was challenged to, okay, I was one of the original computer hackers, Jason. Let me go and throw it out there. And this was during the time where a movie named War Games came out.
Oh, I remember
which was
that.
a bad time to be a hacker. Well, any time is a bad time to be a hacker, okay? So I was tutoring 3 programming languages by day. By night, I was one of the original hackers. So I was dared to hack into a bank. And so, unfortunately, I did it. And so how I got caught is when the ATM machines first came out. And so I borrowed my friend's card. It wasn't a trick thing. I told him I'm gonna get his code, and I'm gonna come back with $200, and I did. So pride blinded me, Jason, but that hidden camera wasn't blinded on that ATM machine.
Wow. So $200, and you got 8 years.
Yeah, 8 years or 30%. It wasn't what I did; it was the potential of what I could do. Like I said, it was right when that movie came out.
What was it like when you got caught? What were the emotions?
Oh my gosh, it's like Humpty Dumpty that sat on the wall, and and it's like everything came tumbling down on me. I was like an egg that burst because I spent years trying to get an education. Even like I said, I was a full co-op student, finished that, honor student, and yeah, lost it all.
So you you weren't able to finish college because of that?
I didn't. What happened was I was one class from getting my degree. I was actually going to go take the test for the class, and let's just say I had to go somewhere else.
So where did you go? Where did you end up doing your prison?
I was in Knox County because I was at UT, so I was at several places. But in the movie, you'll see there was one scene where I was in Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary, which was the most notorious prison in the state at the time. Right. James Earl Ray was there, the guy that killed Martin Luther King. Right. And so I was there for 6 days at first, but ended up being there longer because of the skirmish that I got in.
Yeah, so you ended up kind of protecting somebody else, but you almost killed a guy. You were beating him up so bad.
I protected a white guy in a totally segregated prison where James Earl Ray was. That's literally what happened.
Yeah, I've been to Brushy Mountain, done tours there. It's now a tourist spot, and they have concerts and tours. They got a distillery there. They make whiskey.
Things have changed.
Well, interesting stories. My great uncle was the warden there back in in my dad's lifetime, because my dad, my family's from East Nashville, and he would go to Brushy Mountain. And the house right across the street there in Petros, that was a warden's house, and my dad would go there, and he would get his haircuts as a kid at the prison.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I don't know. This had to have been I guess my dad was born in the 50s, so this was probably in the early 60s, I'm going to guess.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so anyway, long before that happened for you. But so you were at Brushy Mountain, and you ended up spending how many years in prison? 3? Was it?
It was 8 years at 30%. But see, now one of the places I was at was Sneedville, and the sheriff didn't know how to use his computer system. And so I taught him, actually I taught his staff how to use his computer system, so I became a trustee. And I was able to give the prisoners good time, and let's just say I gave myself a lot of good time. So I only spent a year and a half in prison because of the percentage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The only reason why I ended up at Brushy Mountain, Jason, is because I helped 30 guys get their GED. Actually, they were all white guys at this place. And to reward me, they were going to send me the work release, and had to go through Brushy 6 days to get the work release. On that 6th day was when I got in trouble.
Wow. So it was your last day.
It was my last day.
And you got in a fight, and you ended up going, they put you in the hole or whatever.
40 days and 40 nights.
In complete isolation.
Yes.
Is that when you met Jesus, or was it before that you already knew him?
That's when I welcomed Jesus.
So you had known him. So you're like, okay, I give up. I'm in.
Yeah. If you want me to tell you, I had a dream.
Yeah, tell it.
When I was in the hole at Brushy Mountain, I saw in the dream, I saw a red rose floating down a river. Now, I didn't have any interpretation skills like Joseph in the Bible, but I thought maybe a red rose meant the love of God to somebody. But then I thought, well, there's no way that God's going to love me after what I did, okay? Because I failed you, God. And I really thought I heard this in my spirit. You're not big enough to fail me. That changed my life.
You're not big enough to fail me.
To fail me.
What do you think that means? Or what did you think it meant?
I thought it meant that God forgave me, and I actually had a call. Yeah.
What did you, at the time, did you know what that might have been?
Had no idea.
Now you, in the movie, it talks about your kidney disease. When did the kidney disease manifest?
When I got out of prison, I moved from Knoxville to Nashville, Tennessee, okay? And I met my wife, and this is all within the year I met my wife. We got married within a couple of years, and things were going great. Had a good job, and my legs started swelling up, real thick. And I had chicken legs, and I'm thinking, hey, this is a good thing. Well, it wasn't a good thing. On my 35th birthday, I was put into the hospital for 2 weeks with kidney disease. They told me it would take 3 years for my kidneys to shut down, but it took 3 months.
Wow. So they completely shut down?
Yeah, they put me on a machine for 9 hours a day.
It's dialysis.
Mm-hmm.
And did you get a replacement? Did you do a transplant?
Yeah, now after a year and a half, a transplant became available, a kidney, but it was a very poor match according to science. And I took it anyway. Mm-hmm.
And you still have it today?
I'm the longest running transplant patient with what's called a poor match in Nashville. It's been 25 years, Jason. They didn't expect for it to work.
Was it one or both?
They just give you one.
They just give you one. So you have one of your original and then...
And I actually have 3 because it's one added to the other 2. I'm a super guy like that. Yeah, I'm a superhero.
So you can drink a lot of water and take it time.
Oh, yeah. But one of them works pretty good, yeah.
So you've got this story of growing up in Waverly, learning computers, going to UT. Mm-hmm. You made a mistake, and they punished you with 8 years. You ended up getting that knocked down because of good behavior. Mm-hmm. In spite of the fact that you almost beat a guy to death, you still ended up getting out early.
Exactly.
And then you moved to Nashville, met Denise, and got married. When did Papa Joe when was Papa Joe born and all that?
Now Papa Joe, after my wife and I, we got together musically. That's how we got together. We started, I'm a saxophonist, she's a keyboard player. We started playing for choirs, church choirs. And so I had just gotten a kidney transplant, which they didn't think was going to work, like I told you. But we had been working with kids musically for really about a decade. And we had to move into the housing projects because we didn't have any money. When I got the transplant, we were out of money. Moving to the housing project, first day there, a deaf girl comes to the door. My wife gives her a piece of candy. And we found out 50 children lived on the street. What happens, Jason, when you give one child a piece of candy?
Everybody wants a piece.
They all come. And so they started coming. We started helping these children. And see real quickly, there was one of the kids that was in the same grade as my oldest daughter, first grade. I would walk to class with her, the little girl, and my daughter and her dad. One day on the way home, they took a different route. And her dad was beaten to death in front of her, literally. And so I didn't know what to do about this. I was used to fighting with my hands, right? This girl's hugging on me. I'm like, what do I do about this? And that was my introduction to the violence of inner city America. Okay? A week later, Denise and I are training a choir of inner city kids on another part of the city, about 70 to 80 children. A 12-year-old girl comes in with a face swollen. We prayed for the girl. Well, I'm still dealing with the little girl's dad getting killed, and here comes the girl with the face swollen. Well, the girl whose face was swollen, her little sister comes to my left side while they're eating lunch, says, will you be my daddy? And so the little girl's best friend comes to my other side, will you be my daddy? It set off a chain reaction. Before I knew it, 30 to 40 children were surrounding me saying, will you be my daddy? Will you be my daddy? Will you be my daddy? And tears started coming up in my eyes. I had to shut rehearsal down. Well, Jacob's name meant trickster. Well, I used to be called Tiger Joe. Well, when I got home that night, I just prayed and I believed that God changed my name to Papa Joe. So the next week I came back and said, y'all can call me Papa Joe. And that's how Papa Joe was created.
So how old were you when all this started going down?
I was about, golly, I'm so old now. Oh my God. I was about in my mid to late, about 37, 38, somewhere around in that.
And did you have your own children?
Yeah, at the time we had, I think, 2 children. And we weren't supposed to have any more children after the second one because of the kidney transplant medication. So it's hard for me to keep up because we ended up having 6 more. We have 8 biological children. And so,
You have 8 kids.
8.
Okay.
And 10 grandkids, but that's a whole nother story. So yeah, so we had 2 or 3 children, 3. We just had the 3rd child at the time, yeah.
So you had 3 of your own kids, and these little kids are.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Do I need to keep my hat up?
yeah, if you keep your hat up just a
gotcha.
little bit, because otherwise your eyes are in a
Gotcha.
complete
Thanks, Justin.
shadow. Because if we move the camera, it's going to change everything. Let's not move the camera.
And I can restate some of that if you want me to, Justin.
Are we good?
Show me where.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I keep my head up. Okay.
All right. Okay, good.
Good.
Well, let's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll start. So you had 8. You have 8 kids of your own, but at the time you're in your late 30s. You have 3 kids of your own, and all these other kids show up at your doorstep in the projects. You're living in the projects in South Nashville, right? And they're like, "Can you be my daddy?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'm Papa Joe." So God, in an instant, changed you from Tiger Joe fighting to Papa Joe. You're going to be taken care of as a surrogate father to all these fatherless kids that didn't have it. Now, what were you doing professionally at that time?
Well, professionally at that time, I was actually on disability. I couldn't
From
do
the
a
kidney
thing.
disease.
Yeah.
What was Denise doing?
Let me say this. I wasn't just on disability. I also had a business where I was doing Sunday morning bulletins for churches.
Oh, okay. Like
Yeah,
designing and printing them?
Yeah. And at the time, I guess people just wasn't doing that. So I went around the churches. I had a bulletin business, and we were also hired to play for choirs all over town.
You played the saxophone.
Yeah.
And
we trained and taught the choirs, yeah.
And there's a scene in the movie where you pull out the saxophone and you're playing for all the kids. I thought that was really cool too. So you're really on disability. You had your small business on the side, and you're living in the projects. What happens next? I mean, because you go from that, somehow you get to Elijah's Heart, where you're actually doing this on your own as a ministry. Tell me about how that transition happened.
Well, when we moved into the housing projects, I realized that I needed to get a nonprofit 501c3 set up, and so we did it pretty soon after I quote became Papa Joe. So it was soon after we moved into the housing.
So you moved. So when you started the 501c3, was it immediately named Elijah's Heart?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And where did that name come from?
The last 2 scriptures in the Old Testament, when the Lord said, "I send, Elijah the prophet before the great and coming day of the Lord, and he'll turn the hearts of the children to the fathers and the fathers to the children," which points to surrogate parenthood. Fatherlessness is such a, fuel for these kids' trauma and problems, in the communities, and not just in America, all over the world, really. And so we thought that we could help grow surrogate parents, surrogate brothers, surrogate fathers, and that's, largely what we do.
So when you did that, so you started the 501c3, you're still dealing with your kidney disease, recovery.
Yes.
At what point did you kind of get the bill of good health from the doctors? You're like, oh, this is actually going to work. When did that happen?
Well, it actually never happened. They kept thinking it was going to shut down.
Really? So you, at any moment, you could have keeled over, as far as they were concerned.
Yeah.
So you start this ministry to help these kids giving them food and surrogate parenting.
Yeah,
And at any moment, you could.
exactly.
God said, no, I got something for you to do.
Exactly, because I had what was called a sclerosis disease, which is a killing of the kidney cells. And so they thought any moment that the disease would kill it. But they still hadn't found the disease in 25 years, Jason. So I don't know why they keep looking for it.
Wow. Well, isn't that great though? I mean, because if you let's say, man, if you hadn't had kidney disease, you wouldn't have been living in those projects. If you hadn't been living in those projects, you wouldn't have met those two little girls that said, "Will you be my daddy?"
Right.
And you wouldn't have turned into Papa Joe, and we wouldn't be sitting here talking today.
It wouldn't be a movie called Unconditional in 121 countries, and 501c3 foundations that have been sprouted up all over the world because of all of this stuff. Right.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
Hey listeners, a quick message here about something that's been a game changer for my business, and that is Dubb, spelled D-U-B-B. I have been a loyal user of Dubb since they started. I think it was back in 2017, 2018. And I can't say enough good things about their video email platform. With Dubb, I can send personalized video emails that let my energy come through, making every message more engaging. And whether I'm introducing myself to a prospect, connecting people, which is one cool thing that I do with it, or sharing important updates with my clients, Dubb makes it easy and effective. It brings the personal back to sales. Now, here's the best part. They are one of my sponsors of this podcast, and without them, I wouldn't be able to bring this amazing content I bring to you every single week. Because they're a sponsor here, they're offering a special deal just for my listeners. You can head over to therealjasonduncan.com/Dubb. That's therealjasonduncan.com/Dubb, and that's D-U-B-B. And you're going to get 50% off your first 2 months. This is your chance to revolutionize your email game and your video game. Trust me, Dubb has closed more deals for me than anything else. Give it a try. See the difference.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
So how long did you live in the projects while you were running the lights? Because I don't think you live there now.
Oh, no.
So, but you have a base of operations over in South Nashville on what street is it?
It's on Lafayette.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and if you're country, it's Lafayette.
It's Lafayette. In Nashville, we call it Lafayette. Just like there's a city called Lafayette up in what county that I forget what county it is here in Middle Tennessee.
Exactly.
And then there's Lafayette Street. So you're on Lafayette, and you've got a base of operations there, which my mastermind, the Exeter Club, we went last Christmas and did well, not Christmas, it was December. I thought that's why I said Christmas, but we went in December last year and did a service project, and honestly, I'd never heard of you. I didn't know anything about Elijah's Heart, and my assistant Renee found you, and we called you, and we said, hey, we've got a group of guys and women that want to just come and do some work, and you're like, bring it. And so we filled up, I don't know how many boxes of food or bags of food, because you do this walk of love where you go around and hand out food. How did that become a thing?
Well, when we lived in the housing community, we started it then. We were helping the kids educationally. We were tutoring the children and feeding the kids that were coming to our home. Well, my wife had this crazy idea. Why don't we take flyers throughout the community and see who else is hungry? Now, understand, we lived in the housing community, Jason. There were over 300 homes in that community. But we still took flyers throughout there, and people started calling us. And so we kind of put the cart before the horse, and we go out to businesses, churches, just to get help for these kids. Yeah.
And how did you fund all of that?
We just went searching. We knew that if Jesus was sending us to help these children, somebody was going to say yes. And so I became a salesman for little children.
Wow. And so your organization now receives, I mean, what type of funding do you receive annually to do what you do? Is that something you talk about? If you don't talk about publicly,
no, it's okay. And the ways to get funding is through foundations, through businesses, churches, individuals. Most of our funding comes from individuals.
Yeah. People
that just see what we do and say, look, I want to help out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and then you do this walk of love where people come and show up. Not only do we, like what our group did, is we pack the bags, and then you have a a day where you go and give out the bags.
Yeah, and to give you an example, this past month, at least every 2 months or so, we'll do our door-to-door walk of love. But if I backed up, when we lived in the housing community, we started going door to door because you got elderly, you got disabled, you got single moms with a lot of kids that just can't get out. So now, like last month, to give you a magnitude of what we do, we brought in a semi truck, which is not unusual. Sometimes we bring in 2 semi trucks. This particular one was for 400 families. We had 400 boxes of food, 400 boxes of personal hygiene stuff. Okay, and we get close to 100 volunteers, and we put this system together where we literally go door to door. And that was in the morning. In the afternoon, we brought in perishable food. In the morning, it was non-perishable canned food. In the afternoon, we brought in a box truck, 15 to 25,000 pounds of perishable food. And we worked that. I'm talking about fruits, vegetables, meats. And then the community comes to us to get that. And so, yeah, we probably gave away, I know the semi-truck, we had a little over $100,000 worth of resources. And on that box truck, we had at least $30,000. So we gave away $130,000 worth of resources in that one day, Jason.
Wow. So tell me about a success story you've seen through your ministry, something where somebody's life changed as a result of Elijah's heart.
We, the kids need to see something outside of all the mess in the community. Because you're talking about inner city America. You're talking about gangs. There are 3 main gangs over in this particular area, okay? You're talking about gangs, you're talking about drug dealers, you're talking about alcoholism. You've got violence going on. And so a lot of these kids don't get out of the community outside of school. And so what we do, we bring in people like you so that they can see they're actually men and women who are successful and want to encourage and inspire you. Now, when we do that and we do it consistently, they feel like they actually have the potential of doing better. And so we get people that come in who were in the same situation that they're in now. And so they bring in testimony of how they came from inner city poverty and now they are successful, whatever. You know, a lot of times you say doctor, lawyer. You don't necessarily be a doctor, lawyer. We got mechanics that are very successful. That, they have their own businesses and so forth. And so, yeah, we do that. We show the kids what they can be. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that really what it's all? I mean, isn't that what life is? I think if a kid grows up in the middle of the country in Waverly, Tennessee, and never is exposed to the opportunity that you got exposed to, they don't know that it exists. Therefore, they don't have any aspirations. They can't. Their aspiration can only be based on what they know exists.
Exactly.
So if we get kids that are growing up in the projects and all they see is fatherlessness, and they see drugs, and they see gangs, and they see death and destruction, they don't know any better.
They don't know.
They don't know. So what you're doing with Elijah's heart is showing them, look, there's more to this. There's the opportunity to go to school, to be a computer programmer, to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be an entrepreneur. What type of programs have you found to be most successful through what you're doing to help these kids see what's available and what's possible?
Well, what's different about our organization, because we have a vehicle, now I'm talking about a physical car, a way to get resources into the community. Here's the thing. Just think about this. Hungry people eat. So if I bring a food event, the people are going to come out because they need the food. While they're out there, I can have someone who's going to have a tutoring service, someone who is going to have a cooking training service. There's a guy named Sterling, Mr. 100, that grew up over there. He teaches kids how to cook. They can become chefs. He's a celebrity chef. And so when they come, what I do, I set a foundation where the kids can see other ways that they can succeed, not just Elijah's heart. Now, we're a door to show the kids, where they can go by bringing other organizations in, because the kids are going to come out. They're going to come out for the food. The parents are going to come out.
So your 8 kids that you have as a real father. And I don't know that I said this specifically, but we're talking with Joe Bradford, who's now known as Papa Joe. The movie Unconditional was made about you. In case I didn't say that earlier, but with you and Denise and your 8 kids, what are the ages of your kids now?
Okay, now it's a 20-year span in our kids, Jason. The oldest is 30. The youngest is 10. I
Oh
know
my
that's
gosh.
crazy. I've got a grandchild older than my youngest child. So it's like 30, 27, 23. I don't know if we got enough time for this. 19, 16, 14, 12, and 10. I might skip 1 or 2, but yeah.
And you got how many grandkids?
I have 10 grandkids and 1 on the way.
Oh wow.
And that's just from the first 2.
Grandpapa Joe.
Yeah, Grandpapa Joe.
Well, so what do your kids see? Are they involved in Elijah's heart? Because their upbringing is very different than yours. I mean, you escaped that poverty mentality that's so prevalent within the projects
Yeah.
in inner city. So you escaped it, and you've gone back in to help.
Exactly.
What about your kids? What do they see? What are they experiencing?
Well, my 2 oldest are grown. Well, actually, my 3 oldest are grown. And I have one graduating. My 4th one's graduating literally Saturday. So, if I take my oldest son, for example, he came up in music. He's a music artist, recording engineer, and also a producer. And he's a dog trainer. What heck in the dog training? We're just, and we ain't talked about this yet, but my definition of success, he kind of went there. Okay, that's part of his gift. He loves animals. He loves dogs, and he's got a Rottweiler and a Doberman, 2 of the most intimidating dogs there is. But his Doberman is a dog trainer. I know it's crazy, but his Doberman partners with my son, and so my son realized, okay, I'm actually good at this. And he trains 10 to 15 dogs a day in Brentwood, Franklin. Yeah. If you think about it, a niche like that, if you ask me if I know any other dog trainer, I don't. But he's good at that. And so he does extremely well. Okay? And he also serves in the inner city.
That's good. That makes you proud, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. He doesn't leave his roots as far as serving. Yeah.
That's good. Well, what's interesting about dog training is I know one of the #1 dog training companies in the country who happens to be in Franklin. And the owner of that, founder, was a guest on my show a long time ago.
Oh, that's so cool.
And he's speaking at an event I'm hosting next month. And so after post show here, I'm going to connect you and him so that y'all can get together, because he's built a multi-million-dollar dog training platform, and your son would probably be very interested to talk to him. So
he probably knows who he is because he followed these great dog trainers on YouTube. But
yeah. So what's next? I mean, you're how old are you, Papa Joe?
I am 62.
62, young 62, and you should have been dead a long time ago.
Long time
and
ago.
God's got something specific for you to do, which is why that you're still sitting here and still hard charging. What's next? What's going to be this next big step for you in life, ministry, family? What are you going to do next?
Legacy.
And what does that mean to you?
It means to me is replicating what I'm doing without me being there. Okay. Okay. Yeah. For example, the resident services director of the housing authority. He's kind of like the doorkeeper of any type of services that come in to the housing authority. Housing authority is huge in Nashville, all kinds of communities. Okay, and so he asked me to take my model throughout Nashville. Okay, my vision is to take the Walk of Love model, nationally. That's why they have me on Good Morning America. Is to take it national. And I've taught people all over the country, with that model. And so, yeah, a big focus that I have is to grow that. Because, after doing this for decades, I've got some keys to help kids in inner city communities all over the country. So, yeah, that's where I'm looking at right now, is to build a strong foundation in Nashville and spread this thing nationally.
Are you do you use your engineering education at all in what you're doing now?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. When I was in high school, Jason, I was a class favorite, most versatile, and so it was just a grace to have various gifts, and so I put them all together into a package. Okay, and so yeah, I use everything I've learned, in what we do. Mhm.
That's great, man. Well, I applaud your heart and what you're doing, and I've not read your books, but you're giving me copies today, so I'm gonna make sure to read these. But the movie Unconditional is great. I mean, you can watch it on YouTube right now. I think it's on
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah, yeah. At papajoe.org, you can get a direct link to it.
Yeah.
So, see some time.
papajoe.org, everybody go check that out. And you've also got, one of the things that we talked about pre-show, I want to make sure I don't miss this, is you've got a lot of opportunities. If you're in Nashville or want to come to Nashville and you want to help, there's lots of volunteer opportunities with Walk of Love, with Elijah's Heart, putting that stuff, putting the packages together and even going and doing that. So how would people get in touch with you if they wanted to get involved in any of those volunteer opportunities?
Well, the best place to go is walkofloveclub.com. And there we have an upcoming events page. And it pretty much tells everything we're doing in each season. Like, for example, in the summer season, for example, we got things coming up. In the fall, we've got things coming up. It depends on what the season is. And so they can get on there, see what's going on, and they can RSVP right there on the site. Mm-hmm.
So you said we started this whole show talking about there's a very different definition of success, generally speaking, in your experience from black people versus white people. What do you, and you said it already, but I want to call it back out. What do you, Papa Joe Bradford, believe that the word success means?
Well, to me, success to me is achieving goals within a reasonable amount of time in a process of love, unity, and diligence. I know I said a long sentence there, but there's some things in there. Achieving goals within a reasonable amount of time. Goals and time are extremely important. Time is something that people think is precious. So we really focus on that. And so the process is important too, not just the end result. When you come out with us, you got to unite as a team. You need to show love and kindness, and you've got to work. I put you to work when you came, didn't I?
You did. You did. We sweat. We had to take the shirts off.
But you had fun doing it.
It was good.
Yeah. And there's another part to it. When all else is done, what was the quality of service in that situation? Because I'm looking to the next event. I'm looking to the next thing. In every event, I'm looking to the next thing. Because people are going to remember what happened in that event. Did you have some kind of contention? Was love shown in that to where people want you to come back? And so, yeah. And so I'm looking at those factors. You got to achieve your goals. You got to have a goal. You got to achieve it within a certain amount of time. And those aspects of love, unity, and diligence have to be there for me. And when that happens and you replicate it over and over, you're bound to succeed.
So by that definition, do you consider yourself to be successful?
I consider myself to be successful overall. There are times in my life that I want to be more successful, Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all do, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, because it's not about reaching a certain spot and you're saying I'm done, I've arrived. Because I think when most people sit in the chair across from me when we have this conversation, it's like success is whatever it is, but when I reach that, I redefine it again. I'm going to go here. I redefine it again. I'm going to go here. It evolves over time. What if you had to look back into your life and all the experiences you've had that have brought you to where you are today? What is the one key that has allowed you to be successful through all thick and thin, everything that you've done?
Gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. But me personally, it's my gifts, and I see it in anybody. And so once I know what my gift is and find what my area of influence is with that gift, bound to succeed. I mean, because, I'll give you a quick example. There was a guy I grew up with, use baseball as an example. This particular guy, he was considered a nobody. He wasn't a big guy, a little guy. We were all throwing the ball, trying to see how far we could throw a baseball, right? He throws a baseball over the fence in the outfield. We looked at each other like, what the heck just happened? You know, he doesn't look like he can do that. He became the best pitcher I'd ever seen growing up. Yeah, because he was gifted with strength. He couldn't throw a curveball or a slider, but you can't hit what you can't see. He could throw so hard. He was pitching, one-hitters and no-hitters, man. But that was his gift. And so he became what people call a somebody because we found what his gift was. And that's pretty much what's happened with me, and I see it all over. I look for people's gifts whenever I go speak anywhere. Yeah.
How do you recommend someone discovers or knows what their gift is?
Well, you can research. They got this crazy thing called Google. Okay, okay. And I really believe over a period of time, if you try different things, it's going to become apparent. I don't think you can run from your gift. I believe that it starts becoming apparent when you're young. I don't think you can run from it. Now, where it's applied to is a different thing, your area of influence. But the gift itself, an athlete, probably usually when they're young. If someone can draw or not when they're young. Computer technology, if you're a technological nerd, you probably find that out when you're young. So most times people find out what the actual gift is when they're young. Unfortunately, people don't follow it. Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to go back before we finish our conversation today, and I want to talk about your experience in the inner city. Mm-hmm. Because I think all of us, for good or bad, we have our opinions about what the inner city is.
Yeah.
And we have our opinions of why it is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably our opinions are based some on some truth, mm-hmm. others on speculation and what we think and we hear in the news. But what is it really like in the inner city? What is the inner city? Well, that's a term we throw around, but what is it and what is it like and why does it exist?
Well, number one is the word poverty. The umbrella is poverty and everything that comes with it. Because when you have poverty, I don't have enough food to eat. Visited a single mom's house years ago. Went to the refrigerator. She had 6 children. There was only a half of a store-bought pizza in there. Went to the bathroom. There was no toilet paper. There was a Yellow Pages phone book with a part of the pages torn out. So poverty is the first thing. If it's poverty, you got all kinds of problems. People want to feed the children, so they're going to do something. A lot of times they resort to crime, which is why you got a whole lot of drugs in the community. It's going to be drugs. It's going to be violence. Yeah, it's going to be alcoholism, the vices, because, I don't have enough money and can't make it. And so poverty is the killer. That's the source, the root problem. So if I can deal with that some kind of way, then you can help the community.
So what do you believe about the cause of poverty? What is the cause of poverty?
Well, in most cases, they don't see a way out from it. Knowledge has to be in there. Lack of knowledge and utilizing the knowledge, to me, is the cause of poverty. If I'm in the inner city community, and like I said before, and I hadn't learned that there are better ways to do things, then I'm stuck. I don't even know how to do it. I don't even know there is a way. So when I come in there with information, it gets their attention. What? I can do this, and it's not that hard. Or there are grants that will pay for me to get an education for my gift. Remember, the gift has to be in there because you got gifted kids that want to do what they're gifted at. So they just need to be pointed in the right direction and given a hand up. Mm-hmm.
Wow. I've long believed, and you can tell me if I'm right or not, but I've long believed that poverty is a mentality before it's a reality.
Yes.
And so for many people in the inner city, but they don't have to live in the inner city. They can live out in the country, they can live anywhere. They can live in the suburbs. But poverty is a mentality. And so poverty can be a reality by someone ending up in the projects living on food stamps. Poverty can also be somebody who has a job, but they work paycheck to paycheck to paycheck.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's both the same mentality. It shows up in reality in different ways. Mm-hmm. And they're both the same insidious disease that affects us and keeps us from achieving what God really has put us here to use our gifts to become who we should become. Don't you believe that?
Yeah, I believe that. There's a little exception in the inner city and housing projects. It's generational. my mama was here, my grandmama was here, my great grandmama was here. That's all they've ever known, so that's all I know. So that generational poverty has to be broken.
Wow. I don't think I probably have heard that before, but I don't think I've ever thought about it because I know one of my aspirations is to create generational wealth, and I help other people, to achieve and to go through that same aspiration.
Yeah.
But I never really thought about generational poverty in the same idea. Wow, that's heavy. That's really heavy.
Oh yeah.
And do you see a lot of people who live in the inner city that are affected by this generational poverty who don't who have pride in being part of that? They not only do they not want out, they I love this. I want to be in this.
That's the sick part of it. I'm not judging the people as sick, but it's that mentality is a sickness that I do see a lot of, to where it's hard to pull them out. It's like it's an addiction. It's like poverty for them is an addiction, and they feel content in just getting helped all the time, entitlement.
Yeah.
Feel content in it.
So if you won the Mega Millions lottery tomorrow, I think it's like $500 million or something like that's crazy. What would you do with the money?
What would I do with it?
Yeah, what would you do with it?
Well, hopefully I wouldn't be a fool, because I believe a fool and their money are soon separated.
That's true.
Yeah. I would personally. I'm a big. Let's just say advocate of investing. Look, I do that. I'm not going to give it all away. I'm not going to spend it all. I'm not going to do that. Partially be investing, and another thing, I'm going to give. I'm going to invest and give. Those are two things I have to do, because I believe with giving, not for the purpose that it will be returned to me. It's just a natural thing, because, in my faith, I believe, giving is better than receiving. Yeah. So both of those, investing and giving. Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you, my final question for today's show is a question about some advice.
Okay.
So a lot of people who listen to the show are entrepreneurs, and they want advice. And most of the people I interview are entrepreneurs, and you're a little bit different than the normal guy I have sitting in that chair. But you have such an inspiring story of success and how you overcame so many obstacles. We didn't even talk about the snake bite when you were a kid, and almost died from that, which people need to watch the movie.
Gotcha.
But I want you to think about it, because I got to say something to the audience, and I'll let you answer it. But
okay.
What piece of advice would you give to the entrepreneurs out there listening that would help them achieve whatever success they're chasing? What advice would you give? So before he gives us that answer, I want to talk to you a little bit about Dubb, our primary sponsor of the show, Dubb, D-U-B-B. You can find out more about them at therealjasonduncan.com/Dubb. And this is designed, Dubb is a software platform that's designed for you as a salesperson, as a business person. It brings the personal back to sales. One of the things I love about Dubb so much is it allows you to send video emails to people. So if you're trying to get someone's attention, email's still a great way to do it. But what if you sent an email that had a video embedded right in the email? That would be a great way to get somebody's attention. You put their name, like, "Hi, Papa Joe," right at the top of the video. They could see it in print. They could watch that video. And then once they watch the video, it automatically plays the next video or sends them to a link. This is the way that sales get closed faster. Connect with your prospects better. We're really proud to be partnered with Dubb on this. I've been using them as a customer for years, so it's not just something that support the show. I've been a customer. Go check them out at therealjasonduncan.com/Dubb. All right, so Papa Joe, what about you, Wham? What is your piece of advice to those entrepreneurs about who they want to become successful?
Well, and now I've already said that I believe that your gift and applying it to the right area of influence, particularly area of influence, okay? But to add to that one key, stand in your lane. There's a thing that I call the path of defeated purpose. And it's usually when a person gets out of the lane of what they're called, what their gift is. Because a lot of times in business, because even though I founded a nonprofit, it's still a type of business. And I have done small businesses, okay? And I sell books and stuff like that. I'm a public speaker. And so stand in your own lane and your gift and your area of influence is very important, else you'll end up in a path of defeated purpose, because a lot of times you're not successful in most people's mindset right away. I look at success kind of like a really good steak. You got to marinate that thing sometimes. Put your nice sauce and let it marinate, and then slow cook it. Slow cooking success is like you got to be consistent in what you do. You got to develop those relationships. And as you do that and you're gifted in this, then eventually you're going to start seeing some really good results. But that requires staying in your own lane, not jumping out because you didn't get what you thought you were supposed to have at a certain period of time. So let it marinate. Be consistent in that gift, and you will get to where you want to go.
I love it. That's good advice. Well, so everybody, if you want to check him out, go to papajoe.org or walkofloveclub.com. So papajoe.org or walkoflove.com, or walkofloveclub.com. So check him out. But Papa Joe, this has been an honor to have a movie star here in the midst. I mean, people need to go check out Unconditional. Thank you for doing this. And God bless you for what you're doing here in Nashville and the effects it's going to have in the world because of what you're doing here. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Jason. Mm-hmm.
Well, there you have it. We've got another successful person we just talked to. This is a little bit different story. This is not about the traditional building of an entrepreneurial business, brick and mortar, selling products or selling services. We got somebody who has dedicated his life to being a father to the fatherless, to bringing food to the hungry, and helping people escape this poverty mentality, this generational poverty that we talked a little bit about during the show. And so I hope this was inspirational to you. I think this is very interesting to me. I want you to tune in again next week when I talk with someone else about their journey to success. And make sure you check out our YouTube channel, because we're here at the Ariston on Church Street in downtown Nashville. This is a cocktail and cigar bar right here in downtown Nashville. They were kind enough to let us use their place here. It's a great member. We're in their members only room. This is a kind of cool place. But check it out, the Ariston here in downtown Nashville. Thanks to PJ Pierce and all the folks here at the Ariston for letting us host it. Thank you again for watching the show. Listen to the voiceover guy at the end. Do what he says. Until next time, I'm the Real Jason Duncan. And as always, Jesus is King.
Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the Real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.